LSAT score inflation is out of control, and your high LSAT score probably isn't as high as you think it is. Today, I'm going to walk you through some advice if you're scoring well on the LSAT and share with you what you could be doing to score even better. For those who don't know me, my name is Steve Schwartz. I've been teaching the LSAT since 2005, and I personally increased my LSAT score from a 152 to a 175. Now, if your practice test average is around, say, a 173, you probably feel like you're doing pretty well, and that, of course, is a high enough LSAT score that you could reasonably apply to any of the top 14 law schools. However, what you might not realize is that even if you score a 173, and that's what you apply with, you are actually below the LSAT medians for both Harvard and Yale. Yale's LSAT median is an astronomically high 175, and Harvard's LSAT median is currently an astronomically high 174. That means that half of their admitted students last cycle had LSAT scores above those numbers and half had below. So if you want to have the strongest possible chance of getting into a school like Yale or Harvard, you want to have an LSAT score above those numbers. You want to be at, say, a 176 or above. And of course, those LSAT medians may increase. We'll see what happens when the new numbers come out in the next few months for this past cycle. Now, let's say you're currently scoring around a 165. You may be frustrated because you're not seeing any massive trends in the questions that you're having the most difficulty with. This is surprisingly common among those who are scoring pretty well. There are, of course, roughly 15 different types of logical reasoning questions alone. And if you're scoring a 155, a 150 or below, you'll probably notice some big trends in what you're getting wrong. You'll notice specific weak areas. And of course, you want to be aware that the three most common types of logical reasoning questions are necessary assumption, inference, and flaw. So if you're getting a lot of those wrong, it may just be that you're getting a lot of them wrong because they are the most common question types. Of course, you want to look at the percentage of those question types that you're getting wrong, not the absolute number of them you're getting wrong. And then you also want to consider how frequently that question type appears to make sure that you're not focusing on some rare type that hardly ever comes up. In other words, even if you have a lot of trouble with parallel reasoning questions or evaluate the argument questions, that may not be the best use of your time because they show up relatively infrequently relative to more common types like necessary assumption, inference, and flaw. But back to the higher scores, if you're scoring 165 or above, you're probably getting hard questions wrong just because they're hard, not because of the question stem type. You may want to focus instead on the method of reasoning in the stimulus, or you may want to focus on patterns in the answer choices. You may want to look at the tempting wrong answers, why they're tempting for you and why they're ultimately incorrect. You may want to look at the unappealing right answers, why those choices were unappealing for you, and then, of course, what ultimately makes that right answer right. Now, this process, this framework is part of my Socratic review method. It's a cornerstone of my courses and my one-on-one coaching programs. If you're interested in finding out more on your journey to scoring a 175 or above, you can check out the links below this video to find out more and to book a call with me, my team. We'd be glad to help you out. Now, the thing is, when you're scoring quite well, like this 165 or above, there's not going to be a pattern in the analytics platforms that you may be using with other prep companies. And so I find that oftentimes these analytics are of limited usefulness once you're already doing quite well. They can be a crutch. They can give you busy work that in reality will not have a massive impact on getting you into the 170s and beyond. It might not be as exciting, might not be as sexy, but sometimes at this point, what you want to do is you want to note the toughest questions you're encountering, the ones you're getting wrong, the ones you're having difficulty with, the ones that you're getting right, but you just got lucky on a guess and it could have gone the other way. You want to review those questions in depth and you want to write out your thought process. This takes time. It takes more than 2 to 3 minutes per question, which is barely longer than you have on test day to actually solve the question. So during our one-on-one coaching sessions with students, what we'll do is we'll have you send over the 3 to 5 hardest LSAT questions you've recently encountered, along with any notes associated, and that will form the agenda for the meeting. And what we're doing is we're looking at your analysis of the question, your analysis, your understanding of the stimulus, meaning the argument or the fact set in the stimulus, looking at what's the conclusion, if it's an argument, what's the evidence, is there any sub-conclusion, is there any counter-premise, is there filler? Were you able to successfully navigate and interpret the argument, perhaps in the absence of key indicator words? Can you properly identify the sufficient condition and necessary condition in the absence of key indicator words? What are the patterns for you in the types of mistakes you're making in your evaluation of the answer choices? What key insight can we extract from that process to help you avoid making the same mistake again? This takes time. There are a lot of different tools we can pull out of our toolbox to help you better analyze and understand the argument, and specifically which questions are giving you trouble. But you gotta understand what mistakes you're making and why, or else, of course, you are more likely to end up making the same mistake again. And that's what, of course, we want to help you avoid going forward. If you'd like my help, feel free to reach out. And in the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.